welcome to We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard, and thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight is a work in progress show, and it's going to be called I Am the Ed Man, I Am the Walrus, playing in the Everdark. And I know why it's called that, and you will know why it's called that, because joining me tonight is a gentleman by the name of Edward Harrison. So, hello, Edward.
Hello. How's it going?
Oh, very, very well, because I've mentioned that title because you are from the company called Walrus Games.
I am indeed, yeah. No idea how that happened.
I don't know. Do you have a moustache?
I do, and a beard.
Do you have big, huge teeth?
I think they're pretty average. I don't know. I try not to judge myself.
Do you hang around on beaches?
Oh, I'm guilty. You've caught me now.
The reason that we've got Ed on tonight, or Edward, what do you want, Ed or Edward?
Go with Ed, just to confuse you.
Ed's fine, just to confuse me. And we'll go. I might as well say the reason why. The reason why that Ed is laughing at the fact that he now has to call me Ed, because I just spoke to Ed, an episode which probably everybody has heard. So I've just done a back-to-back Ed, so it's two Eds are better than one kind of thing. So now I'm not going to end up with Deja Vu Ed, because otherwise I'll end up asking the same questions, or think I've asked the same questions, or linking it into something else, and it's all just going to be very, very confusing. Thank you for coming on.
Absolute pleasure.
We spoke a little while ago, and then we kind of have been getting this together, and then trying to, through shift patterns and people being on call and general nonsense, we've decided tonight is the night that we have to get this done.
The stars have aligned and we are ready to go.
They have indeed. So first of all, thank you for coming on.
No, thanks for having me. It's it's good to be here.
Good. And the reason for anyone else out there that's listening for the first time, thank you very much for listening for the first time. Hopefully there will be at least another 7 times. They have 70 episodes, so if you listen to 10% of them, we will be very happy. But the reason that we do this is because there's quite simply not enough podcasts out there about board games and tabletop. Certainly not. I'm now getting a private investigator to investigate that fact, and he is now moving on to all the obscure podcast things to find it, like Podknife, which apparently we appear on, so thank you, Podknife. The second reason that we do this is because when somebody called Ed rocks up from Walrus Games, you have to talk to him. It's like the fourth rule of Fight Club. You have to talk to Ed. So tonight what we're going to do is we are going to do what we usually do with a work in progress. We are going to find out a little bit about his past, we're going to find out a little bit about the present, and then we're going to hop, skip and a jump into the future to learn. But first of all, Ed, do you want to furnish us with a little bit of your history of the hobby?
Oh yeah, sure. History of the hobby. I guess where everyone kind of starts is kind of where they're growing up. So when I was a kid, I obviously played a lot of board games with my dad. He got me initially into games like Warhammer 40,000 and stuff. So that was my initial experience with board games. Maybe a few, obviously the basic ones. Everyone plays Monopoly, and everyone slowly hates Monopoly. And I kind of fell off the radar with games for quite a few years until I was in York and a brand new board game shop opened up. So I then found myself kind of drifting in there because I'd always been a big lover of them at heart. And I just kind of got into it. I started playing a lot of Star Wars X-Wing. I really found myself just completely missing this world that I'd been, not been involved in for so long. And I found myself just thinking one day at work, twiddling my thumbs, a little bored, and I thought, I can make a game. So I spoke to my colleague, and he said, yeah, we should make a game. So, we were both huge board game enthusiasts. So I think he was joking at the time when I I said that to him because I went away, I started making a game, I came back, he seemed genuinely surprised I'd made a game. And so it's always been something I've just really enjoyed doing. I just love the social interaction you get from sitting down with people and starting off as friends and leaving as enemies because someone pulls off a horrible trick, and maybe it's a Game of Thrones. I'm still bitter about that game.
Everybody's bitter about that game. I think I heard Chris Clue talking about him playing Game of Thrones, and everybody starting off liking each other and ending up hating each other at the end. X-Wing.
Yes. Oh man.
Because you mentioned X-Wing.
That was
I'm interested in people that talk about X-Wing, because X-Wing to me is a very expensive way to collect nice models.
Yeah. It was a lot of money. I haven't played it much recently, but yeah, I absolutely loved it. I mean, it was great good for me because my friend, he was all about the cards, I was all about models. I like visualizing, seeing physically what's going on the board. I like games like strategy games, you can see the models. And he loves cards, so it was a nice blend of the two. I played a lot of Star Wars X-Wing. I was just being out there. I was Rebels because Rebels are superior. And this Empire scum.
Obviously, yes, absolutely.
I would wager my Hawk build could take out anyone off the table, but
Okay, so what did you have? How many vehicles?
I only had 3.
What was your setup?
It was a Hawk, B-Wing, and an X-Wing.
That's it?
Is
that all?
That was it. And it even managed to take on the dreaded TLT builds. I used to play played a few local tournaments, and I was able to take on even the most meta of builds with this one that I never found a build like it anywhere on the internet, which was kind of refreshing because I'm pretty naff at coming up with my own little builds and teams and stuff. I seem to have accidentally found the one that I only ever lost it once because I didn't fly in formation. So you got to fly in formation. It's a skill in itself. So.
Did you ever trip over into Armada?
No. I think Armada was on the way out when I started. I don't know. I'm not sure if it is on the way out. I haven't paid any attention to Armada.
You haven't paid any attention to
I know.
Call yourself a Star Wars fan?
Well, exactly.
End the podcast. Go home, Ed, you're drunk.
I have been shamed already. That was quick. We're barely...
I'm not going to shame you already. I'm going to go back and say, the other Ed didn't shame Star Wars.
It was a money thing. Okay, I can't afford them. I could barely afford X-Wing. It also didn't help that the guy who owns the shop kind of knew that I was pretty weak, and he would constantly go, "Hey Ed, that game's got £5 off," and I'm like, "Oh no, I've got money in my pocket." And usually most nights I would leave with a game in my hands, and the debt is still there.
Was it a tab, or was it like did you end up
I paid in cash. Oh, if it was a tab, if I'd left when I left York, if I had to pay back that tab, I would have probably ended up on the streets.
Oh my goodness.
It was a good collection.
Did you end up kind of going to shoplifting in order to fund your habit?
No comment. I'm not going to publicly admit that on a podcast now.
Exactly. No, exactly. Because I don't think it's admissible as evidence, because people would go, "He's not that serious. Was he joking about that?" All I can say is a strong canvas bag and an ability to wander around Superdrug very, very slowly can be quite a profitable pastime.
It's what I've not yet experienced.
That's really not true. Exactly. No, what did I used to do? One of these things, I used to work in one of these shops that sold really expensive jumpers. So you always used to get the shoplifters coming in with, they'd bring in these canvas bags and they weigh down the bottom of them with a couple of magazines to make them look like they were full. And then kind of put plastic bags on the top, and then all they would do is they would just try and drop a jumper down the side of the plastic bag and then walk out looking like they were carrying some kind of heavy shopping. Just strange times, but it's good to know that it's good to know you kind of kept your habit up. So is your X-Wing to the side now? Have you moved on to other things?
Everything is in the side now. That's the honest truth. Because Everdark became very much a full-on experience for me. And in moving to York, from York to London, the day job then took a huge toll on me as well. So I don't play that much. There is a board game cafe I go to quite regularly. I've only recently found a few friends who do play board games, so I could have joined a group. I admit that was probably my fault. But when all your money gets spent on prototyping for a board game which is slowly strangling you, I wish I was joking. You can't really get into it.
Well, as I said, this is my couch. Make yourself comfy and just tell me about your cardboard.
If it makes you feel better, my chair is pretty much horizontal right now. I am properly leaned back, so...
You better not fall asleep, that'd be awful.
If you hear a massive crash, I fell off.
You hear a massive crash, you better call an ambulance, so you better put your,
Just leave me, Ed. Just leave me, I'm happy down there. It gives me a week off. No, I can't have a week off. I've got a Kickstarter to launch in 2 weeks.
You could have fell asleep and that was it. It's like, Ed, what's going on, Ed?
Ed. Everdark, shoot me. Pretty much.
So before the kind of you're not allowed to use the word madness, are you? It's not politically correct at all. But before you decided and you got the cardboard fever and says I can make one of these. Why? I mean, how do you go? Do you have an ability to talk unlike I do? Did you always have an idea to make a game, or was it something you just kind of came up with, kind of thing?
I honestly don't remember anymore. Because people kept saying, where did Everdark come from? And I was there must have been something in my head. No, I never. I guess I'd always thought about it, and I've always wanted to. I've always been a very creative person. I mean, my background is design technology, and I've always done arts and stuff. So I've always been making things, and yeah, I've always wanted to write a book. I always want to write a novel. I've got loads of ideas in my head. I've got a huge universe of ideas in my head, genuinely. But I've got no writing stamina. So, and as I say, I got into games a little bit, and I kind of missed playing board games with my family. I mean, we used to play...
What's your book about? No, stop. Let's hear your book about, because I'm fascinated. The whole creative process for me about board games is you get people that concentrate on the mechanics, and then you get people that concentrate on the theme. And you get people that are kind of in the mixture, and they manage to pull it off and really, really well mix the mechanics and the theme at the same time. So I'm interested to hear what your book is about.
My book, crikey! I don't have stamina, so I didn't get very far in it, but I know exactly how it goes. It's kind of heavily linked to Everdark, and as I said, this very, very fleshed out universe is the story behind that, and it's linked to that. I guess it was based in York. Go figure. People always say, write what you know, and I know York very well. So It was based in York, and it's kind of around this. I won't say secret society. It's more like an agency, not an Illuminati kind of thing, but it's basically about this group which know about these creatures that basically come into our plane of existence, into our reality. It's all about them investigating what these are, what's going on, why they're here, why they seem to cause so much havoc, and then where they go. It's kind of following on a kind of almost like a supernatural kind of almost ghostly kind of story, mixing in with a bit of science fiction as well. I was trying to blend loads of different kind of genres together into this kind of weird mix. I don't want to say too much, because then it started evolving into what became Everdark, and I do have plans to continue that universe in board games, because I'm not going to answer what the Everdark is, or where it is, or I want it to be a bit of a mystery, and I wouldn't mind coming back to it in a later game and adding some more, shining some more light, no pun intended, so I'm shining more some light onto the Everdark, and as to what it is, why it's there, what's actually going on, how to escape it. There's a huge universe in my head, and the second Everdark game, putting that out there, because the first one will definitely be successful, I hope. The second one will take on a bit more of a, because in Everdark, the first game is a citywide game. The second one starts focusing on the people, and it'll be based around a lot around sacrificing pieces of yourself, and it's going to be more like a horror game, I guess. A bit more panicked. I like panic games. But it's a universe I want to continue. So I guess that's the story about. I can't really say much about it because if I go into too much depth, all my aces up my sleeve are just given away, and people are going to come running to your podcast like, oh, the answers are all in here. The answers are all in here.
Well, if it gets us more listeners, that's the sacrifice I'm willing to make, Ed.
That's fine. You take. I'll take one for the team. So yeah, I just feel like I focus on the theme. I'm more about the theme of the game, I think I don't know. There's just such a huge variety of games out there, but the ones that have all these in-depth stories you can have, those are the ones that interest me the most. Ones that have these huge, intriguing universes that are being created for the imaginations of people. And anyone can kind of, it's base a game in the real world, and you get some amazing games from that. But amazing games that have amazing storylines, that's where I'm most interested. And so for me, I guess it all built around the theme. The theme changed a lot, I might add. It was supposed to be a futuristic game, and I said to my illustrator, hey, I want Greeks in space. So he gave me Greeks, and they weren't in space.
But there's a whole kind of people just like astronaut floating about going, my country's bankrupt.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh, right. Oh, you meant ancient Greeks.
Yeah. Okay, pretty well. Yeah, we'll go with that. So,
it's all about an astronaut getting in contact with the International Monetary Fund, asking them to extend their overdraft so they can actually land the rocket back down on planet Earth.
Yeah, that's gonna be my fifth game.
You're nicking stuff already. I can't believe it. You've been like speaking for 20 minutes and you're already stealing stuff. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
I steal all everyone's ideas, but the problem is I never get around to using them, so it's fine. I've got.
Well, that's what Philip Pullman said. Something he says like he says steal like a bee, steal like a hummingbird, write like a bee, or something like that. That infamous, that very famous saying. No, I know. I was like, what did you mean, Philip?
I had a lecturer at university, and he said to me, and I think of all the lessons I learned at university, this is the only one I remember. And he said to me, "It's not what you steal; it's how you steal it." I'm just going to put this out there. I've not stolen anything. Everdark is a completely unique and original idea created by myself. Nothing has been stolen yet. But people keep they come up with ideas. They start talking to them, and you go, "Oh, that's a great idea for a game." Now, I did that on Twitter. I got a friend I made on Twitter. He's in America, called Jason, and we were talking, and somehow I just said, "Hey, we should collaborate on this." I could have quite easily run off with this game idea and taken it for myself, but I said let's collaborate, and this was about 2-3 months ago. So we've been working pretty hard on our second game. The first one's not even out yet, and we've got a second game on the go. But I don't like stealing stuff. I like to give people fair credit where credit's due, or even work with them on it. So yeah, don't worry. If I steal an idea, I will come back to you and say, hey, I've got a game.
Fine.
Do you wanna make some space Greeks?
It's fine. I just present space. That'd be so cool.
Yeah,
Greeks in space.
Oh, it sounds almost like a tongue-in-cheek game. There was a UK Games Expo. The guy came up to me and he said, talking about his game idea, and he said it was called Zombie Princess, and I automatically loved it because it's based in a maze, and it was just I find the title very amusing. The kind of whole premise about the whole game very amusing. So yeah.
Did you get that at the expo? I mean, are you tired? Am I talking to a tired Ed tonight?
I accidentally, I forgot. I booked the day off work. I had completely forgot. I was about to go into bed last night, and I was looking at my phone. It said 7 a.m. start. I was like, oh no. And then I looked at an email and about who, because obviously I've been out for a week, and I had an email, and I was looking at it saying who's out this week, and it says Ed's not in on Monday. And I was like, oh, thank the Lord.
Did you actually run about the bedroom and go, yes? That's what I'm talking about.
If you can see the size of my bedroom, there'll be no running. More like bounce up and down. Yeah.
And then you proceeded to stay up for a further 4 hours, which is why you're tired.
Yes. Actually.
Went up and went back to the telly and went, right, what can I binge watch?
Oh, exactly.
I've not watched Luke Cage. Should I watch Luke Cage, or should I continue with Iron Fist, or should I go back to something else?
I actually I wasn't the biggest fan of Luke Cage or Iron Fist, but I actually got through Luke Cage more than I got through Iron Fist.
Did you?
I was disappointed by the end of Luke Cage, but overall, I'm glad I watched it because obviously it's all part of the same universe of the Defenders.
Yeah,
so,
and you kind of feel you're going to understand it at the end of the day when they bring out the Defenders kind of scenario, which will be an interesting thing to hold together. I have started watching Luke Cage, and then I also started watching the Iron Fist as well. The problem was, right, we watched Jessica Jones, me and Mrs. Not Wizard, and that's actually her second name.
Oh, yeah.
And it is Not Wizard. It's Polish. And we watched Jessica Jones, and she was utterly enthralled in Jessica Jones, because that kind of thing, she's like, superheroes, that's rubbish. So we started watching Jessica Jones, and then by the end of the second one, she's like, have we got time for another one, maybe? I says, yeah, sure. So we watched the entire series and like really got into it. And then we put on Luke Cage, because she was like, well, Luke Cage, is it like Jessica Jones? Well, it's the same thing. And we put it on, and within like, I think the first 45 minutes there was some really, really extreme type violence, and that kind of put her off. And it's the same with Iron Fist. As soon as she watched the first 10 minutes of Iron Fist, she goes, oh, they're fighting.
Oh.
So Jessica Jones, if everything's like Jessica Jones, then she's fine. But apart from that, So that was a quick aside into TV habits, which is all good. Do you have a favourite style genre game then? In terms of, in general, are you a kind of are you a hidden movement type guy? Are you a strategy guy? Are you like a minis type person?
Yeah, good question. I like being able to look at a board and see. I like watching things move around. You're positioning pieces. I think it's very. I like very visual games. Card games are fun, but you're just putting down cards on a table, and I'm not really seeing them move around and how they interact with each other. It's just values. And while I do enjoy them, I prefer to see my armies roll across the lands, steam rolling through someone's defenses, and as I laugh manically in their face as I crush them. I'm a graceful winner. Don't worry. But I am a big fan of those kind of games. I kind of get the idea of how into strategy games I am. My brother and I, we were playing Axis and Allies 1917, is it 19?
You don't sound that old.
We're back in my day.
Don't do that. No, that says something else. That sounds like a different type of podcast.
But yeah, so we played that for 7 days straight. And when I say 7 days straight, not like we finished a game, start a new one. The game lasted 7 days. It got pretty intense. We genuinely reenacted probably some sort of tabletop version of trench warfare, because we made no grounds, and just for 7 days we were at it. We didn't hate it. We loved every second of it. He's still convinced to this day he was about to win. So we don't ever mention the Axis and Allies week. It's kind of a bit of our history, which we just never happened.
Is it kind of an uncomfortable thing if you do mention
it? No, we just started arguing about who was going to win, because eventually we put it away. We couldn't continue. It got a bit ridiculous. It was probably because he was probably about to win. I made a couple of blunders with the Navy. So I say I love strategy. I do like miniatures, but they're very expensive. Now, Star Wars X-Wing, I got into because I enjoyed playing it, but also as one of my friends wanted to get into, and so it was nice to actually have someone I saw every day at work, and then in the evenings we could go back to back to his place. We could play games and stuff, and we just both were into it. So that was really nice. But I don't advise do miniatures. There's a lot of money. So I just prefer board games. Some great games out there. I just love watching, the pieces moving around the board, and the tears pouring down your opponent's face, or usually my face, actually.
So would you be a person that would be into like Eclipse or Rebellion and stuff like that, where there's a little bit of strategy involved? I'm still, I'm obviously trying to push you into another kind of horrific kind of habit-y type thing, because obviously Rebellion is all your Star Wars-y kind of thing. This is
where I'm going to be honest and say Eclipse. I don't actually know that. See, now I'm guilty. I don't know a huge amount of games. I mean, mainly because I never have anyone to play with, which sucks. So I don't get a huge amount of exposure. And also I haven't.
Do you know what? See, to that thing, it's like, so what? Do you know what I mean? One of the things we say on We're Not Wizards is we like it to be as accessible as possible, and we don't like to assume that anybody has played any type of games. Eclipse is basically like moving spaceships around the board. That's what it is, and there's a little bit of tactics and there's a little bit of backstabbery, and it's apparently good fun. It's kind of like if you took X-Wing and slowed it down by about 100 times, kind of thing, because it lasts about 11 hours. So it's a very, very kind of slow. Yeah.
Oh man, I could get into that. That sounds great. I do like long games. You know, even if you do lose, as long as you're having fun at the end of it, you know, that's quite fun. Star Wars Rebellion.
Like a kind of game you can come into and come back away from, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can go away for lunch, or come back the next day and continue, or come back on the next day and the next day and the next day and continue. That's a clear sign of a good game. And was it Star Wars Rebellion, wasn't it? That's the new one that came out about a year ago. Was it Fantasy Flight who released that one? It was like £100 or something crazy. It looked amazing.
Yeah, it does look amazing. It looks an awful lot of fun. It's like it is a hidden, but it's the hidden Rebel base game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. You got to find out where the Rebel base is, and you've got to move. The Empire's got to track things down, and the Rebels got to go in and snatch pieces off them and hit them down and stuff like that. And I had this idea about, and I mentioned it on a couple of shows ago, about starting off by playing Rebellion, and then when you got involved in a space battle you moved to Armada, and then when the big ships, the capital ships, were knocked down and you only had the stub fighters left, you moved to play X-Wing. Either that, or you went and then played Imperial Assault on the ground when you landed on the planet, and then you played Star Wars Destiny. So it's like a whole pile of Star Wars, and it would have taken up about 3 or 4 rooms in a house. It sounded absolutely amazing. Just, that's the type of thing at the time. Why? Okay, Everdark.
Yeah.
It looks. I've not seen. I don't remember. There's a game that it reminds me of when I look at it. First off the bat, and don't hate me and don't hang up.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
It's like one of those things. I don't mean to cause you offence.
Don't say it. I know what you're gonna say.
What?
Please. Okay,
What?
say it. Go on. Just say it.
What?
If you don't mention the game, I'll be happy. But what are you gonna say? Go on.
It starts with a T.
Oh, that's fine.
Then it's a Z.
Okay.
And then it's a Zolkin. I was gonna say.
Zolkin.
Yeah.
It's not
just
what
because it's.
I was gonna say.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say anything. I was not gonna say the Deadless Sentence.
What?
Oh, I said it. Oh no.
What were you gonna say?
Deadless Sentence.
Oh right, no.
Zolkin.
I wasn't saying that at all.
That's
yeah,
the
kind of
one
like just because the
Czech
cogs.
games?
It's the Aztec.
I tried to pick
game.
up a copy at the Games Expo the other day. Yesterday. It was all sold out. I was going to give it as a gift, so I have no idea what it even looks like. I never even heard of it before yesterday.
It's kind of like a big Aztec game. You've got like 3 wheels that interconnect each other through kind of like cogs, and you turn them around, and then.
Oh, I'm gonna look at it now. Oh, that's pretty.
It is pretty, isn't it? It's a lovely looking game.
Actually, there are some incredible looking games these days.
Oh, but then I looked at yours and I went, this is a really, really decent looking game. Why didn't you tell the good people? Because we have now, I think we're heading for what I call a Frank West episode. And a Frank West episode is what happens when me and Frank West spoke for like an hour and 10 minutes, and we were meant to be talking about City of Kings, and then we ended up not really talking about City of Kings. And then he had to come back on again so we could talk about City of Kings. So I was hoping to avoid that kind of situation again. So Everdark. It looks completely different. It looks really, really different from what I've seen before. It is basically, it's 3-dimensional. Not that board games are 2-dimensional and exist in a 2-planar space, but you know what I mean. It's kind of proper sticking up out the ground buildings and figures, and you know, it looks very, very kind of built up and stuff like that. What's the basics behind the game? Tell us all about it, please.
Of course. So the basics behind the game. It's. I guess I've found recently that people compared it a lot to is I'm hoping a lot of people have played the game or seen the game Labyrinth. And it has been compared to that, which everyone seems to love. Labyrinth. It's like an old classic, so I take some pride in that. They say it's like Labyrinth grew up, went through a really emo, angsty teenager phase. It's kind of a very dark, twisted maze. No pun intended here, because the big feature about it is the rings do twist. So people look at it and think, oh, you've got to get into the maze, you've got to get out the maze, and it's neither of that. It's about getting around the maze, which is the big challenge, because so it's set inside this city called Foss. And this Foss is a great city of light, surrounded by the Everdark. It's an endless sea of nothing, basically. Out there is just this kind of swirling, black, misty, cloudy, weird denseness. And inside there is basically death. You go in there, you die, you get drained of all your life, your spirit, your soul, you're dead. And so you're inside the city, and this darkness is kept out by this great light. And then one day the light starts to dim for reasons unknown, and all this darkness and bad stuff starts crashing in and kind of starts consuming the city. So you start off in your little temple in the corner of the board, and you've got to get into the city, and you've got to complete various events. Now the events start off very easy. Things like just evacuating civilians from districts and stuff, to fighting some kind of basic low-level monsters. They're called Skia. They're basically shadow creatures. They're not really.
Oh, right, okay.
They don't really have a form. They're kind of just like a swirling, gloopy, blobby smoke, which kind of takes on almost like a humanoid form when it's doing it, because it's absorbed kind of the spirit of a person, and as a result, that spirit's kind of been trapped in them. And it's very, very humanoid.
So like the bad guys in Ico.
I guess you could compare it to that, but I guess the inspiration for them came from, and there's the photograph I keep seeing on the internet, which I absolutely love. It's a picture of a volcano erupting. Got this big in the dark, and it's been surrounded by a thunderstorm, so it's lightning coursing through this black plume. And you got the fire of the volcano kind of bursting through as well, and it just was this beautiful image of just this energy, and that's essentially what these are. It's like condensed pulsating energy. So you've got this glowing core to it where everything's so condensed, it's just giving off this heat. So it's full of, and it's basically trying to consume people, because this city isn't supposed to be there. And it's kind of this energy this darkness is trying to just bring balance back to it by just removing all the souls which kind of condense in the city, kind of just trying to disperse them again amongst the Everdark. So you go into the city, you start with some low-level quests, events, and then things start to get a little bit more dead as the missions get harder. There's like a system with tiers to the deck, so there's 5 tiers. So tier 2, you get some slightly harder missions, and then by tier 5, you've got these mental missions which are designed to really drain you of your energy. So you're navigating this maze, you're twisting these rings, you're creating new paths of the city streets that link to different areas. And so it's quite easy to get lost in there, because you're trying to get to one location, you're twisting the board, you get up to the next tier, you get to your mission, but it's taking you a couple of attempts. But the real fun part of Everdark is the fact that because you're playing with other players, you're twisting the rings to get to a certain location, and they're twisting the rings as well. So you get this almost like a duel going on with creating these new routes, because you're always interfering with each other, you're always affecting each other's paths. So it's really hard to navigate yourself to where you want to go without someone just going, ha 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 ha, I see where you're going, no you're not, and you start twisting the board away from them, and it allows.
Is it like Downfall? Do you remember Downfall? Do you remember when you had...
I haven't played Downfall.
You've not played Downfall? It was like a proper... It's an old game. You're talking 80s. I mean, you're not talking like last week. Do a Google check, and basically it was almost like the same setup as Connect 4, where you faced each other and the board was kind of like vertically in front of you, and you had dials. And what you did is you twist the dial, and you twisted the dial round in order to make the marble drop. But as you twisted your dial round, you were twisting the dial of the opposing player at the same time. So you had to try and guess which dials you should twist, and then it sometimes affected the other player and it made the moves easier for them to make.
Yeah. No,
something like that?
yeah, because in some cases, if what you're doing does end up inadvertently helping your
Yeah.
opponents, which is great for them, sometimes
Mm.
it doesn't help them. So yeah, in doing what you're trying to do to help yourself, you could be helping someone else. You could be making it worse for someone else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it is would be similar to that in a sense. I'd never seen that game before, so it's
So much fun.
yeah.
So many arguments.
Oh yeah, arguments do happen with my game as well, which is always amusing. Yeah, especially from me because I usually get pretty upset because I never win. I've won my game officially once, unofficially twice in a year and a half.
Really?
The first time I ever won in like a group test was where it was a bit dirty how I did it. Because originally there was like some point stealing cards in there, yeah, abilities, and I'd saved
Yeah.
on mine to the end because no one else had played it before, so I knew what I was doing. So the end of the game came, I pulled out these sets of cards, which basically I stole all the points from the first player, and I went from last to first. Um, no one.
Did people kind of look at you, kind of like, yeah, that's
People
really.
people were pretty annoyed. They
Yeah, I
never
can
played
imagine
again.
that.
So
It's like,
I removed the entire mechanic from the game.
I'm sure you did.
So and I keep the guy who I actually did that to, who was at the expo of the last day actually, and he came over and he had a look, and he loved the look of the game now. So I guess he didn't hold any grudges.
Well, that's pretty good.
That's good. But he was really chuffed for the condition it was in, seeing how far it'd come. He thought it was ready to sell, kind of thing, because this prototype
cool.
looked like the finished thing, like the real deal, which it should do after how much I spent on it. So, yeah, it's as I say, it's been fun. But yeah, so you're interfering with each other a lot, and it does cause a lot of arguments.
So how does a turn go? I mean, for a turn progression.
Yeah, okay, so everyone's got a standard for actions they can do. And those actions are broken down to two things. They can move and they can twist a ring on the board. If they have any abilities, they're free to use. But the abilities are, you have to purchase them, so you only have a maximum of 3. So it's rare you see someone use all three abilities on the same turn at the same time. But yes, you have 4 actions, and so twisting the board allows you to create new paths, and then you can move along them. But it's because it's limited to 4 actions. You have to you find yourself hopping onto a ring just to kind of almost lock your place in, even though it's not the way you want to be on that ring. You lock yourself into it because you know that if you still start spinning the ring again, you're going to get moved away and it's going to undo all your movements. So you find yourself kind of bouncing around the maze, just trying your best, some sort of indirect route to get to these places. So you get to your event, and you can attempt it. And this game was originally designed with a timer, because I'm a fan of timers, but it turns out not everyone is. So it's an optional timer these days. Because when I was at the expo last year, everyone loved the game, but a lot of the comments were, I don't like timers. Not majority, but there was enough people for me to go, okay, I'll consider getting rid of it. So if there's a timer going, it's designed to be very fluid. So you're basically rolling a d6, which is yourself, a white d6, and a black d4. And you're rolling them together, and it sounds very simple. You're just trying to beat that d4. So if you roll a 5, the d4 rolls a 4, you've beaten it. But there is on the event a modifier which will add a certain number to that black dice roll. So that 4 might become a 6. So at that point the 5's beaten the 6. The 6 beats the 5. You can't roll a 7. So technically at this moment you're losing. Now there are different ways you can kind of complete these missions, because you have these crystals, these purple crystals known as spirit, and they are basically like your power, and you can use them to modify dice rolls. So say I had about 5 sat on my little player tile, I could use 2 of them as +1s to add to my dice roll, so that makes it 7. At that point I might get 4 crystals back for completing that mission. So it's a bit of a gain. I get 2 extra at the end of the round, so that's spent 2, got 4. It's kind of a good win. But at the same
Yeah.
time, you could roll really badly. So you could roll a 1 and the card, you might roll a 3 on the black dice, and so you're losing by quite a lot. So you can then use a crystal to re-roll the white dice. So there is luck involved in the rolling, but you can kind of almost modify those dice rolls using those resources you've got. So there's a bit of a resource collection, there's a bit of luck, but there's a strategy in how you use those resources. Now, I know some people might think, it's dice rolling. I don't like dice rolling, but the game's been designed deliberately so you will fail missions, because if you can't complete a mission for any reason, if you failed the event, you have to evacuate the space, and that's area of the maze. That path becomes blocked by a darkness token, and that's permanent. Until you pay to clear it, that area of the map is then lost. So this maze, which is pretty easy to get around at the start, gets more condensed as areas and paths are blocked off, and you've got to pay to release them. So it's doing damage to the city. You can't go through paths, but it's also doing damage to the city's health. So if it hits 0, everybody loses. So if you're playing a free-for-all game, you find yourself having to make loose alliances because you don't want everyone to fail their missions. So you do get people like the losers start working together, the winner starts getting picked on more. But if you start trying to screw the winner over, it's going to start to, he's going to start failing missions. Missions do damage hurts everyone. So you've got to screw people over, but not. It's a balance. So
it's kind of like a semi-cooperative game, but you've got to really watch out if you're. It's for the greater good, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Your actions could have a detrimental action over all the players.
Yeah.
So in that case, is it worthwhile kind of making the wrong decisions to make somebody lose to kind of lose life then? I take it, it's traitor. It's almost like putting in a little traitor mechanic. So you're kind of working together, but ultimately you can be very, very kind of nasty to each other. I like that.
It's funny you say that, because I originally designed the game with a traitor mechanic in it. You're supposed to be playing. It was supposed to be a bit more of a political game, and there was a traitor mechanic in it, but I could never really get it working quite. I couldn't get a really fluid game out of it all, so I ended up kind of ripping the whole game apart and starting from scratch, which is now what it's in its current form. But I do like that kind of. That traitor mechanic, aspects in games. I like, you never know what someone's going to do, if they're going to help or they're going to, make it worse for you. Because there are moments in Everdark when everyone kind of just goes at the start of the round, look, the city's on 5 health right now. Anyone fails a mission, we could all lose. So we've all got to agree to go off and do, repair some damage. So you all go off, repair some damage, but you never know if there's going to be a moment when one guy might go, screw you all, I'm going to do my mission now, and he's going to complete his mission. And if he's completed all his missions before everyone else has, that will initiate the end to the round. So everyone gets one last turn. So in him. Or and if they were to bottle it and to make a run for it to get themselves more points over everyone else, it's gonna affect everyone. They're gonna miss out on completing their missions, and they're gonna hate that person. But it's also gonna do damage. So they've also almost undone, the things they've done. All the work that was done with that round. But the logic being, if there's a timer going on, there is only a finite amount of time you can repair and do your events. So you've got to balance out how much you repair, how much of the missions you try to do. So it does get a little bit frantic, it does get very petty, and there are moments when, you've got to put your differences aside, but it only takes one person to screw it up for the rest.
So the winner, do they win on points? Do they win on souls? I mean, what's the kind of the win conditions for the game? Do you have a set number of rounds before everybody kind of finishes off?
Yeah, so there are 6 rounds to the game. And I kind of turned it. I was originally 8. I turned it down to 6 because the game can get quite long. If you've got a timer in the game, a 5-minute timer, 6 rounds, it's half an hour plus any management time discussions. That's fine. I can control that. But it was when people were saying they don't want to play with a timer. So when you take the timer out, the game can rapidly increase from that hour and a half to 2, maybe even more. So so it lasts 6 rounds, but it is based on points. Now originally in the game it was based around kind of influence, trying to almost like these little victory discs you're trying to get. I've kind of replaced those with just each mission will have a amount of victory points for completing it. And you add them all the events, you keep all your events you completed that game, and you add them all together, and that gives you your score plus 1 point for every 3 crystals, every 3 spirit crystals you have at the end of the game. Plus there are sets, so for every 3 of a certain event type you have, you'll get an extra victory point. So you are picking missions based on the difficulty of how many points they'll give you, but also you're also looking at completing sets almost to score yourself additional points at the end. So yeah, there's 3 ways to score points. Actually, there's 4. And the last way is if you repair the city, you take these darkness tokens off, you get an extra victory point. So there's 4 ways to score points within it, and the winner is the person who has the most. That's in a free-for-all game. Now there was another mode I had put in because people were like, I want a cooperative mode. So I was like, fine, I'll make a cooperative mode. So there is a mode where you work together, and all the points you collect help you build tiers to a temple in the center. So it's a bit like Forbidden Desert in that sense. You're building an airship, you're building a temple.
Yeah.
So you can work together in a cooperative mode to do that. But the game was designed to be backstabby, so I would rather people played free for all, to be honest. But I wanted the game to be very customizable, to be to meet everyone's needs. So you can take the timer out the game, you can put the timer in, you can play cooperative, you can play free for all. I want people to have something that they want to play, something that they can tailor to what they prefer. Because as I said, there's quite a few people who said, look, I would play this, but I would only play cooperative. So I was like, hey, there's a cooperative mode now. So I just wanted to just open up to as many people as possible. Like I designed the entire game so that it was almost universal in the sense that doesn't matter what language you speak, you can play the game. I've removed all text from it, so every card's is number based, all the location, everything is numbers. Obviously the rule book is in English, so as long as I can create different languages, anyone in the world can, I don't have to change anything within the core of the game. Anyone can pick it up, anyone can play it, anyone can customize the rules to however they want to have, as long as they don't mind playing a spinning, twisting labyrinth of hell full of monsters and backstabbing and treachery and family fun stuff.
What looking at it, because I am looking at the Kickstarter, because you sent me the preview.
I was updating it. I sent you. I was updating it earlier today.
Yeah,
I just haven't uploaded it.
Oh, you've updated it
a little bit.
What? Okay. Now again, don't take this the wrong way. I seem to be saying this a lot, don't I?
Oh no.
What possessed you to say I'm going to make a game that is not only kind of 3-dimensional, but is properly solid 3-dimensional? I mean, how high does this stand? It looks like it stands at least about maybe 3 inches, 3-4 inches when you've got the buildings on the top.
When the building's on top, yeah, it does get pretty tall, probably bigger than 3 inches, because that temple stands about 5 centimeters tall, plus probably another 4 centimeters on top of that. Current the exact measurements. Yeah, it's about, at its peak, 10 centimeters. What possessed me? I'm now allowed to say it because I've left that previous job, so I'm allowed to say it now. I was working in schools at the time, so in my evenings I had access to all this machinery and all this laser cutters and stuff, and so I had the ability to do that. The game was originally supposed to be a solid board with a ring on top, a disc on top, but I found when I was spinning the board, the discs would catch each other and all the discs would spin. So I made it flat, and I had these rings that would sit in these grooves, and again they kept popping out the tracks and falling apart. So I was like, I've got a vacuum former. I know vacuum formers are cheap, so it's a genuinely cost-efficient way of doing this. I could make a 3D platform for it. So I had the wood lying around. I threw together a quick rough platform, and I cut the board out on a laser cutter. And I just like, actually, this works. This doesn't pop off. This is actually a very kind of easy way to make something, and I can make it as tall as I want. But the taller it gets, the more of the board on the other side it blocks. So I had to have a balance between height and having these nice steps that the board can't pop over with blocking off features. So yeah, I had the machinery, I had the tools, and I had the time. So I went for it. I figured there's nothing stopping me. Obviously, the cost was potentially a problem, which is why I say it's vacuum formed. It's made of really thin hips, but it's still really sturdy. I was at the expo. I was pushing down on it, showing people how much pressure it can take. You could easily put your hand on it and push down without really doing any damage. So it's a very strong structure it's built on. But I had the means, I had the imagination. I was like, why not?
I mean, it looks spectacular. I mean, it's in terms of uniqueness.
Thank you.
It kind of stands out in terms of the uniqueness, because I have seen, I don't know, if I see another game which has kind of glorious looking miniatures and just a flat board, I'm potentially just not going to back it, kind of thing. But do you know what I mean? It's like, I like games that look different. That's why I mentioned Zolkin, because it's got this lovely kind of wheel cog motion thing, and that's kind of what excuse me, and that's what I thought when I first saw it. Thank you. I'll have to cut that out. Oh my goodness, I've got to edit this now. Oh,
that's right. 3, 2, 1 and clap.
Oh, we're just going to leave that in anyway, because so what?
No, that's like a right. Oh, I can't say that.
I do actually do quite a lot of editing, I would like to point out.
That's fine.
You know what I mean? That we are a semi-professional organisation.
That's
Semi-professional means that I probably put a lot of money into this as well and never get paid.
You know how I feel.
No.
I know how you feel.
Yeah, I know. I think one of the things is when you look at the game, it stands out, it's unusual. It's one of the games that people are going to remember as well. I think it's very, very difficult to... It's difficult to make your mark on Kickstarter nowadays.
Yeah.
And I think you can put card games out there and you've got to rely on the art, and then if you put miniature games out there, you've really got to... The miniatures are fine, but I think people are looking at mechanics. I mean, even if you look at what kind of, say, like Simon, which I think they should just call themselves Cool Melee or not, because Simon just sounds like somebody try to say Simon incorrectly. But you know where I'm coming from. You've got to look at kind of like, they're having to look at the mechanics. When they did Rising Sun, they had to introduce other mechanics in the game apart from you kind of fighting other people. So I think there's a difference, so people can bring out this anything that's just different is good if it's backed up by very, very good mechanics. I mean, had this not doing this and not just saying, right, I'm going to get 3 or 4 kind of thicker cardboard discs and put them on top of each other, is this not going to increase the expense that in order to produce a game? Is that not rapidly increase the amount of money that you have to pay to produce a single unit for the game?
Well, as you mentioned, the cost was a big concern, but I've found a way to really bring that cost down, and that was through using the vacuum formed platform. The board itself, those rings, they all are from the same board, so you will have they will all slot together. Now when it goes to manufacturing, I've heard that they might have to use 2 boards and have to punch out the rings kind of almost separately, but you said that you'll never use 2, but if it's possible to get it all from one board, so the cost isn't actually as bad as you'd think. I mean, I've seen versions of platform games where you've got this solid base, this solid disc platform, and it's huge. You've got this huge platforms built on, and these games are being it was selling for €130, and that was huge. And it was a gorgeous game. It had some really nice features to it, but it was like, can I justify that price tag in paying for it? As you say, you got to make something stand out. I guess it was unique enough to kind of get the sales, but what's nice about mine is because it's got this kind of this platform that's essentially just really thin hips. It means it's like a mil thick. Millimeter. My game will be selling for I think I'm my main bundle will be at £44, which is what, 46, 50 euros. So it's less than half the price, more than half the price of the other one I saw that was spinning. So it's actually going to be very, very cheap to make. I mean, it's a very simple process. It's the tooling that's going to be the initial kick, but once you've got all the tooling set up, it's actually a surprisingly cheap game to manufacture. It's still in the 40s, mid 40s range. So that's kind of what makes people, are almost spending these days, and people are looking at it saying, yeah, I expect to pay £44 on that kind of game. It looks like a £44 game, which was
very, very, that's very, very inexpensive.
Yeah, well, I said that.
I'm not going to use the word cheap.
It's not cheap.
It sound worse, but it's not cheap.
But it's not expensive, and
no, it's not.
The miniatures, it's as long as the quotes hold up. The miniatures as well, that are the first stretch goal of the game. They, again, the tooling's expensive, crazy expensive. But once we get that stretch goal, there's going to be no real additional cost to the box to produce them. So again, it will allow everyone to upgrade. Because
you've got the little miniatures as well as the skier.
Yeah. So at the moment we'll be using kind of like card stands. So there will be graphics of the characters on there on these stands, but once we upgrade, we'll straight upgrade to the miniatures. And every single Kickstarter game will get them. No one's going to be left out. I'm not going to have he gets nicer models. Everyone's going to have it, but it's not going to be that expensive. I mean, that's what the quotes that were given to me were saying. Now, if I submit the quotes and they turn around and go, oh yeah, ha ha ha, we lied, I'm going to be like, oh, crikey, this is not good. But they quoted me, and I gave them the files, and so that's what they said. So as far as I'm aware, the game is going to be surprisingly affordable to make, which is great, because I didn't want to go anywhere over 50, because once you hit the 50 plus mark, people are going to expect real value for their money. They're going to expect the most beautiful miniatures. They're going to expect a lot of
little moons on the stick and stuff like that.
Exactly. Game modes and hundreds of hours of replayability. I mean, I'm not saying mine won't have that replayability of the game modes. Mine's very customizable, but at that point, £50, people really start to look at it and think, do I really need this? And so the fact that I can keep it as low as it is for what it is, I hope it really stands out, and people just look at it and think, I need that in my collection. I mean, I had the one reviewer who he played it with me briefly not long ago, and he was saying this game is a compliment to anyone's game collection. It's it's almost like a must-have. It's needed. So which was really humbling, because I went into this having no idea how to make a game, no idea what I was doing. And just to have so much nice feedback, especially from the people at the expos and stuff, just to say this is a gorgeous game, this looks lovely, and I want this, or just to say I'll back this when it comes out, just to straight away say they haven't played it and they say I'm backing this. Was genuinely humbling, and I was quite overwhelmed by that. So I really don't want to produce something that isn't good for them. So I'm putting every effort I can into making a game that's going to be replayable, and they're going to love.
When you put yourself out there, I mean, when you're at the expo, and you're putting your heart on your sleeve, do you have to kind of have the game face on, so if somebody turns around and says, I didn't really enjoy that, and then they just walk away?
Yeah.
Is it quite a tiring? Because it's not a case. It's not like you are. You'll be sending the game out to reviewers, trusted reviewers, and reviewers will be going, well, they know how to, I guess, kind of be nice about stuff. If they don't particularly like it, or they'll be very, very honest. I guess if you're dealing with the general public, you will get the occasional less than nice person that'll just turn around and go, nah, that was rubbish.
Yeah,
I'm not playing this kind of thing.
That is definitely always the worry. I mean, it's something I'm very worried about. I'm quite, I guess, an anxious person in a sense. I do worry a lot, and I would particularly worry about people's perception of me and kind of their enjoyment of these things. And so, you do have to have a game face on. You do have to be ready to take some hits. But I've been really lucky. I seem to have created a game which hasn't received any real negatives. I mean, someone was saying to me the other day, everyone has one great game in them, and Ed, you struck out early, unfortunately. So, which was great.
You say if you come back and do the follow up, it's going to be rubbish,
Exactly.
and it's just going to be kind of one of these things where you say, "Well, what's the game like, Ed?" And it's like, pretty rubbish. What did you do? I kind of peaked.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I did my first great game, and then everything else is
all
just
downhill from here.
I don't know what to say to you. What's it called? Well, what you do is you each take a deck of cards, and then you play a card, and then if it matches what the other person's got, then you say match.
Yeah, you know about my next game? No, so
You sent me the link for the Kickstarter. I was like, okay. Should I tell him he's like that fruit's been done?
Oh, that was someone else who did that. Oh, crikey. Maybe there's a twist in there.
But
maybe there's a twist he hasn't told you about. Like suddenly you're
know
playing the
what?
game and suddenly space aliens pop out the table. That actually sounds quite fun. I would like.
But the thing about the game is, I think it's because it does look unusual. I think we have this conversation time and time again. Well, not you and me, well, occasionally, but we do. But you have the conversation time and time again about the amount of risk that you're able to have when you're putting a game out on Kickstarter, because 9 times out of 10 nowadays you are already putting a lot of money into your game before it even reaches the Kickstarter kind of stage, before you're pressing the button on it. So when you see something like your game, when you see something like Everdark, you look at it and go, that's something different. I'm interested in that, because if I look to the left and if I look to the right, I'm seeing card games, or I'm seeing mini games, or unless I'm jumping into the the RPG section, there seems to be a lot of games which are based around kind of minis and moving. There's a lot of games based around here's the next greatest card game. To see something like what you're doing generally kind of piqued my interest in it, just because of what you're getting in the game, and it sounds kind of interesting to me from that side of things. And I'm also interested to see how the rest of the community will kind of take to it as well.
Yeah, no pressure.
What's it been? What's the have you kind of spoken to other people in the UK kind of Kickstarter community? What's the kind of the feedback been from there, if you've spoken to them?
Yeah, my problem is I'm not the best at social media, and I'd say I'm very kind of anxious about things. So I should have made a lot more noise than I've made. I mean, generally the people have seen it. People at conventions, everyone just loves the look of it. Everyone's just want to play. They all want to know more about it. I mean, as I said, the general public walk past, everyone stops to look, and they all say, instantly intrigued. So I never stopped talking. I mean, just going back briefly to the negatives. The only negative I ever got was I don't like dice rolling. It's a beautiful looking game, but because it's got dice rolling, and it's not for me. That's the only other real negatives I've ever got. But regarding the community, genuinely the feeling is there that this Kickstarter is going to be really successful. I mean, I really hope it is. I as you say, you've put a lot of money into it, and unfortunately, I wanted something that was ready. I didn't want to kind of take the money and then go, right, I'm going to start working on it again for another year. I wanted something that was pretty much I could just send the money to the manufacturers, so I don't miss my Kickstarter deadline. It's going to be So, but yeah, the feedback, as I say, it has been incredible, and I got reviewers all wanting copies. Problem is, I've only got 5, and and I said, being an idiot, I put down a Kickstarter launch date saying we're launching then, and then I realised, oh no, that's too soon. But because last year I said I put down a hard date and I couldn't make it, so you'd thought I would have learned my lesson and would have done it again, but I did it again. So I can't not go ahead of this time. So I'd like to get my review copies out to the reviewers, by now, but I haven't got enough copies sent out to make more noise. So the Kickstarter will do well, but I believe, but I don't think it will be anywhere near the potential it could have done if I had stood on the streets banging the drum saying take a copy. So yeah, but generally the community has been incredible, and everyone's been so supportive, and everyone's giving each other great feedback. but I need to be a bit louder. So you're going to start seeing this over the next week, and me starting to dishing out some more information. I'm going to preview the link to everyone so they can all have a quick snippet, have a quick look.
Yeah, no. And it looks, as I say, I am genuinely interested, because if I wasn't interested, then you wouldn't be speaking to anybody tonight.
I was talking to myself
probably,
like usual then.
Yeah, exactly. You probably would just sit there going, phew, that was a busy expo.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Pretty much was.
But if people, when they've listened tonight and they've went, actually, this does sound really interesting, where do you exist on the internet webs?
My loudest voice seems to be on Twitter most of these days, but I do have a website, which I really need to update again, which is www.thewalrusgames.com. Kind of obvious, really, when you think about it. And then there is everything about Everdark, and I will be updating it again very soon, obviously in time for the Kickstarter, so all the information is on there. But I'm also very vocal on Twitter. It's my main way of kind of just giving small snippets, small updates to people. I can't remember what my Twitter is. I think it's at _Walrus Games, or it could be at the Walrus/Games.
We shall put it in the show
put
notes,
it in.
so we have notes to show. But I'm going to dig this out just now because I have that ability. It is the Walrus_Games.
Okay, that's the one.
Boom.
Boom. That's it. You should really remember that thing. That's the two best places to find me. I do have a Facebook page, but I don't like Facebook. So, it gets the occasional bit of love, but Twitter is where it's all at. I never thought I'd be saying such things, because when I was when I was growing up, I was like, I hate Twitter. Twitter is useless. It's pointless. But now I've been on it, I'm like, actually, I see the use. It's got its advantages. So
I'll tell you what the thing I like about Twitter is earlier today, we tweeted. I tweeted because I run the Twitter. Colin just tells me, stop using Twitter, you look like an idiot. That's what he says. But I said, Star Realms, we really had fun with Star Realms, and we would love it if you came on the show. And then, lo and behold, Star Realms
said no.
Blocked us.
Oh no!
No, that's not true. That's not true. Just to say, there's potential start of dialogue. So there you go. So if you don't ask on Twitter, you don't get.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I always say. And we wouldn't have, we wouldn't have people like yourself coming on, because we kind of started speaking through the UK Kickstarter group.
Yeah, you were looking for people, and I was, I blundered into the topic. I was like, interview me, or something on those lines.
I was like, okay, let's do that, and then we got it sorted out, so it's all good.
Yeah.
So we will make sure that we put in the show notes all the links that you have, so we have notes to show.
Sure.
For if people want to keep an eye on what we're doing, you lovely, lovely people, hugs for all of you, but no kisses. You can find one kiss. You can find us on Twitter at We're Not Wizards. You can find us on Facebook at We're Not Wizards. You can find us on Instagram at We're Not Wizards. If you are therefore inclined to go to YouTube, because some reason the lovely people at Podbean keep putting our podcasts on YouTube automatically for us, and we love them for it. Good old Podbean. You can find us on YouTube if you search for We're Not Wizards Tabletop Podcast. If you would drop us a subscription, that would be fine, because once we get to 100 subscribers, it means that we can get our own special URL, which is all very, very good. Or search for us on We're Not Wizards on your usual kind of podcast catcher. We are on Apple Podcasts. If you've liked what you heard tonight, then somehow, if you go to Apple Podcasts and you say that you like us very much, then Apple Podcasts say that's very good, and they do lovely things for us. For some reason, I don't know, it's magic. I'm still trying to work it out. If you want to give us a review, as we always say, don't give us a 10, because that'll make us feel big-headed. But don't give us a 1, because that makes us cry. Give us a 5, right in the middle. Average, because we are we're a little bit average. But the person who's not been average tonight is the rather wonderful, fantastic, amazing Mr. Edward Harrison. Listen, this has been a lot of fun. It's really always interesting to find out about kind of new games. Everdark looks a lot different from a lot of things I'm seeing kicking about the castle on Kickstarter at the moment.
Thank you.
When the Kickstarter goes live, we shall make sure that we add the link onto the show notes so you can click away, take a look, and decide if you're going to back or not. But seriously, Ed, thanks again for coming on.
No, thanks for having me.
It's been a delight and a pleasure. There are only 2 more things to do.
Don't kill me. Oh, it's not that kind of show.
No, it's not that kind of show. That's a different show that we do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Ed?
We are not wizards. Yes,
Definitely not wizards. No, we're not. Don't say
no,
that.
we're not. We're not wizards.
I can delete the file.
we're really not wizards.
That's good, because do you know the other Ed said he wasn't a wizard? I'm just saying. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from he is the Ed man, he is the Walrus, a goo 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 joob, Mr. Ed Harrison. Say goodbye, Ed.
Goodbye, Ed. Oh, wait, goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, hope that there are bigger holes than your D4. Watch out for the paths, watch out for the ones that get closed. And yes, sometimes the path will revolve and the path will turn, but as long as you stay true to the path, you shall win throughout. Until the next time, my good people, goodbye.